Hello everybody, I am Keaton and this is Kid Catholic Season 10, Episode 2, and I hope that you all have had a very good week so far. Again, I just want to say thank you all again for 5,000 subscribers. It really does mean a lot what all of y'all have done for this channel and helped this ministry to grow. And I want to say thank you for the awesome questions and last week's Q&A video. So, what I want to talk about today is I think something that is of like the utmost importance that kind of gets sort of forgotten about. And these are a lot of different concepts, but they all sort of run together. That's the idea of mainly modernism, right? What is modernism? Because we hear it from sort of different sides. We hear like, oh, modernists being modern is a good thing. It's getting new. But then we hear from other sides like, oh, being modern is a bad thing. It's just awful. And so I want to look at where the Catholic Church and how the Catholic Church fits into that and how we should go about that. So it's important to know whenever you hear like a modernist Catholic, that's very different from a secular modernist, right? Secular modernism is very different from Catholic modernism. Catholic modernism is normally things, generally basic stuff, like post-Vatican II things, right? Like the Novus Ordo Mass, things like that, which are, I mean, more Catholic modernism, but that's not a bad thing. Catholic modernism is still traditional in a sense that from the secular world's eyes, it's still traditional, if that makes sense. But extreme Catholic modernism, that's when it gets too far, and I want to look at a definition of extreme Catholic modernism, and this is different from just regular Catholic modernism, right? Extreme Catholic modernism is the attempt to reinterpret the teachings of the Catholic Church by taking into account new philosophical and scientific thoughts and concepts. Now, I want to look at secular modernism and how, why being extreme Catholic modernism is bad, because it runs the line of just regular secular modernism. The definition of modernism, just regular modernism, is both a philosophical movement and an art movement that arose from broad transformation in Western society. It's the transformation, right? It is the renewal. However, it goes a lot deeper than that. The reason that secular modernism is bad is because it is essentially has very similar principles to humanism. Humanism and secular modernism basically run hand in hand. And what humanism is humanism is a concept, is a philosophical idea that was brought about during the French Revolution. And I want to read the definition of humanism. The definition of humanism is an outlook of system of thought attaching to I cannot talk today. An outlook or system of thought attaching prime importance to human rather than divine or supernatural matters. To a surface, humanism can have some right ideas like, well, humans should be supported. Humans should be what we look after. And obviously, but going as far as to say that humans are more important than anything religious or divine, that's not a good thing. That is not a good concept. It sort of pushes this secular, anti-religious sort of concept is what humanism does, and our current day modernism runs that exact same line, right? It is normal to be anti-religious in the society, in this world that we live in today. And the reason that extreme Catholic modernism is bad is because extreme Catholic modernism borders the line of secular modernism, which then turns into humanism, the idea that human pleasures, that humanity is more important than divinity. And obviously, that is not true. So again, regular Catholic modernism is still traditional from a secular stance, and it can still be okay as long as it doesn't go too far. So when we hear these two different sides, Catholic modernism is just awful, and then, Catholic traditionalism is just awful, it needs to get with the times. There's so much back and forth, I feel like, right now in our Catholic Church, and I'm not going to get into the two sides of it, obviously, but what I do want to say is that the Catholic Church, is something that's different from a lot of other things, in a sense that, well, I mean, obviously it's different from other things, it's the one true religion, but also in a sense that it doesn't change, it doesn't adapt over time, right? It's not like the Catholic Church is going to simply change its teachings because, this group of people or this society has changed from past ones. The Catholic Church's teachings stay the same. And so there's sort of this stereotype associated with the Catholic Church that, the Catholic Church just stays in the past and the Catholic Church is just a past thing. And that's not true. It doesn't need to get with the times. It doesn't need to change. It doesn't need to adapt, because the Catholic Church is the truth. There is not a my truth. There is not a your truth. What is true doesn't change over time. There is a set moral truth, and that is when relativism comes into play. Now, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about relativism because I made an entire video about relativism, and so I highly suggest you go and check that out. The definition of relativism is the doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to culture, society, or historical context and are not absolute. Obviously, this is something that we as Catholics don't agree with. The truth is the truth. The truth is absolute. Just like the truth that the Catholic Church is the one true church, that is something that is absolute. That is something that we know for sure. That is something that cannot change, that will not change over time, just like the Catholic Church's teachings. And this is when secular modernism and even extreme Catholic modernism, right? That's what the definition of extreme Catholic modernism is. And things like this begin to push back against this idea, begin to embrace relativism. And that is when it starts to get tricky. That is when we need to know where we stand. So, I'm not saying like traditional Catholics are better. I'm not saying modern Catholics are better. I am just saying that all of us together need to agree that the Catholic Church's teachings doesn't change. And while this society tries to push this idea that, humans are just so much more important than anything divine, everything, because there's this idea being pushed right now that as long as you do what you want, as long as it doesn't affect anybody else, it's perfectly fine, right? I can go and do whatever I want as long as it doesn't affect anybody else. That's what the society is trying to tell us. That's what secular modernism is trying to tell us. That's what humanism is trying to tell us. But that is absolutely not true. We as Catholics know that, right? A sin is a sin, whether it affects somebody else physically or not. It's still a sin. And so we know that there are moral rights and there are moral wrongs. And that's why, again, it's okay to be more on the modern side of Catholicism, which is, it's a normalized thing in this country, right? That's more post-Vatican II stuff. It's okay to be on the traditional side of Catholicism. That's more Tridentine Mass. But what needs to be agreed upon is that going too far in modernism, going to extreme Catholic modernism, going to secular modernism, and going to humanism, and relativism, a lot of isms in this episode, but going to all of that, that is when it goes too far, and that is not a good thing, and that is when we need to have the courage to draw the line, because we as Catholics need to be able to step up in today's society, right? And it's important to repeat this time and time again, and be willing to defend the teaching of our Catholic Church. We know that it is not stuck in the past. We know that it's something that is true no matter what, right? It is the truth, and the truth does not change over time. And so I think that that's like the number one message that we as Catholics all need to take away. And we need to push in today's society, because there's this idea that the Catholic Church is stuck in the past. We need to make it known, of course in a loving way, that is absolutely not the case. So, now that the topic is done, do you know what it's time for now? It is time for
the Saint of the Week!
And today's Saint of the Week is St. Peter Damien. Now, St. Peter Damien actually has a really awesome story. The reason that I chose him for today's Saint of the Week is because his feast day was this past Sunday, as of when this was posted. So the 21st. And St. Peter Damien was like a complete genius, and that is to put it lightly. He was an 11th century saint. He was originally orphaned, and he was living with one of his brothers who mistreated him terribly. He eventually left him and moved in with one of his other older brothers, and he actually sent Peter Damien to good schools. And so St. Peter Damien was able to study. He committed his life to Jesus Christ at a very young age, and he soon became a professor. But he decided after becoming a professor that he wanted to fully dedicate his life to Jesus Christ, extending just beyond teaching. And so he decided to devote himself in prayer and become a monk. Now, as a monk, he did so many devout things. When he wasn't praying, he was studying the Bible. He was always doing one of the two. He was intentionally getting little sleep and eating little as sacrifices for God, and he was very cheerful to do this. However, that sort of led to serious illness for him, and he had to learn with prudence. He had to start taking a little bit more care of himself. What's really cool about his story is that he was called on by the Papal States. He was called on by the Vatican at times to help mitigate and sort of lessen if there was a disagreement that someone had with Vatican, if there were disagreements between two clergy members if there were disagreements between two separate monasteries, then St. Peter Damien was brought in to sort of try to ease the conflict, to sort of try to find a resolution and make the conflict within the church die down. So that's actually something that I think we need in today's church, right? But that is something that is so cool. And I think it's important when talking about traditional Catholics and then modern Catholics, again, not extreme modern Catholics because that goes too far, but modern Catholics and then traditional Catholics. I think that when there's a divide between them, it almost feels like there's two separate sides of the church, which is a sad thing. I think that no matter what side you're on, we can all agree that that's a sad thing. Did St. Peter Damien right about now? Would have been great. So let's all go out and try to be the St. Peter Damiens of ourselves. You know what I'm trying to say. He's a great saint to imitate. He later passed away in the 11th century due to an illness, surrounded by his fellow monks. So St. Peter Damien is a saint, like I said, who we can all look to try to lessen and ease this divide among our Catholic Church, so that the Catholic Church, we as one Holy Catholic Church, can unite together to begin to change our society. So thank you all so much for watching. Now, before you click off this video, I know that a lot of people click off this video before the outro. That's fine, but if you want to stick around, I would really appreciate it. I would really appreciate it if y'all would please click the red subscribe button down below. Thank you guys again for 5,000 subscribers, and the bell next to it. That way you get notified when I come out with a new video. Please check out my website, kidcatholic.com. There's so many things you can do on there, and I would love to give a talk to your church, school, parish, whatever it may be, whether it's via Zoom or in person, because I'm also doing in-person talks once again since the COVID shutdowns. If you want to do that, please reach out and email me at kidcatholic1@gmail.com, or just go to my website, kidcatholic.com, go to the contact me page, and you can email me from there. Also, please leave any topic suggestions, any Saint of the Week suggestions that you might have in the comments down below. And check out my social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The link to all three of those will be in the description down below. I hope that you all have had a wonderful week, a wonderful day. I know that I have. I will see you all next week, and hi, Brielle.